Right now at 5, with summer on the horizon, Chicagoans are itching to get outside. But when will parks and the lakefront reopen? Mayor Lightfoot outlines the plan.
And reopening amid a pandemic means a major change to the way we shop at retail stores. A local business owner voices his concern about keeping customers safe.
Plus, Governor Pritzker offers up some guidelines for reopening child care centers, but with restrictions. What parents need to know. The NBC 5 News at 5 starts now. Good evening, I'm Allison Rosati.
And I'm Rob Stafford. We begin with a close look at the coronavirus in Chicago right now. The city reported 710 new cases today. That is better news because it's fewer cases than we've seen over the past 2 days. It also dropped the trend line a bit, but today's numbers also raised Chicago over the 40,000 mark.
But as the number of cases continues to rise in Chicago, Mayor Lightfoot is outlining plans to reopen the city. She says the lakefront will reopen later in June, but it's not going to be a flip of a switch. More on the mayor's plans for what she calls the city's treasure from our political reporter, Marianne Ahern. Marianne.
Allison, the mayor says a day does not go by without hearing from someone who asks her about reopening the lakefront. The issue, how to control the crowds. Whether you exercise here or just like to enjoy a walk, Chicagoans are anxious to return to the lakefront. Mayor Lightfoot says it will reopen later in June, but no exact date set.
The lakefront's really complicated. The lakefront is our jewel, it's our treasure, but what we know is people flock in mass to the lakefront.
The area for boaters, known as the Playpen near Oak Street Beach, that will not be part of the reopening plan.
Sorry, folks. The Playpen is not going to be open this summer. Now, I know everyone's anxious to see our lakefront itself reopen, but at this point, we simply aren't there yet.
One of the factors in reopening is the number of Chicagoans who test positive for the virus. Currently, the positivity rate is at 20%. The goal was to get it to 15%.
I would very much like us to be at that 15% mark. I think if we're close and everything else is looking good, it's not like that piece in and of itself would completely hold us back.
Can you please turn down the lights?
Lightfoot will not yet say if Lollapalooza will take place this summer. That announcement is coming next week. But when it comes to the 18-mile stretch of the lakefront, Lightfoot is moving gradually.
Opening up is not without risk. It is with risk. We expect that there's going to be some case surge, but we got to do everything that we can to minimize that from happening.
While no exact dates given today, the mayor says there will be in the future dates set. Not just the dates, but rules to go with the gradual reopening. We have the entire plan on our website. From the Control Center, Marianne Ahern, NBC 5 News.
Thanks. With that in mind, the governor's announcement that the state moved to phase 3 on May 29th is creating some confusion here in the city. Employees at small businesses in Chicago, like Cram Fashion, say they do not know when they will be allowed to open, but they want to be ready and they want to be safe.
I think, yeah, I mean, right now the governor has said that we'll be most likely entering phase 3. Illinois will, May 29th, but I think we're all kind of on edge here in Chicago because we don't know if that will happen in Chicago too. So I think the best thing we can do right now is just prepare to reopen on May 29th or, June 1st.
But again, the mayor today announced the city will not reach phase 3 with new openings until early June.
Sadly, Illinois health officials reported another 110 coronavirus deaths today. That raises the state's total number of deaths to 4,700. And that means Illinois has now lost more lives than all of the deaths that were reported in Midland, China. There is some encouraging news, however. The trend line, as you can see, for daily deaths has been falling in recent days. As Illinois gets ready to head back to work, concern on the forefront of parents' minds. What about child care? Today, Governor Pritzker laid out some guidelines and restrictions. Our Phil Rogers joins us now with much more. Phil?
Yeah, Allison, all us parents know it's hard to go to work when there's no one to watch the children. So in making this announcement today, the governor started with one important observation.
To date, Illinois has not seen significant transmission of COVID-19 in child care settings, which is encouraging evidence that child care can be provided safely.
Nevertheless, more than half of the state's child care providers have been shut down during the pandemic. The 2,500 which were allowed to operate targeted primarily at essential workers and their families. But with thousands returning to work starting next Friday, there is a critical need for families to provide child care for their children, especially since the reopenings come with the end of school in hundreds of Illinois communities.
All of the 5,500 child care providers who are not currently operating are being asked to reopen when their community moves into phase 3 of the Restore Illinois plan.
Good news for Illinois families, but there will be strict guidelines. Returning children above the age of 2 will be required to wear a mask if medically able, although not during outdoor play. Temperature checks will be required, and no children are to be admitted with a temperature above 100.4. Classes will be restricted to 10 children or less, which will mean a reduced overall capacity for childcare in many communities.
These new group size limits will be roughly 30% lower than the levels they were at before the pandemic.
Now, there are other requirements for child care providers. They must demonstrate that they have procedures for isolating children or staffers who become sick. They must have substitutes at the ready if any staffers come down with the virus. And perhaps most importantly, a procedure for reporting any exposures to the families of children in their care. Rob?
A lot of details to work out. Phil, thanks. In Indiana, health officials reported 27 more deaths. Also, nearly 500 more Hoosiers tested positive. That raises the statewide total to over 30,000 cases now. It is the same day most of Indiana entered phase 3 of reopening. Governor Holcomb urges Hoosiers to go into the holiday weekend with caution.
For sure, go outside and take in fresh air. Breathe in and breathe out. Recharge. But do it responsibly. Do it safely. If you're around other folks, put on your mask. Keep that physical distance.
A reminder, 3 Indiana counties, including Lake County, must wait until June 1st to enter phase 3. Meantime, the governor wants Indiana to fly flags at half-staff on Sunday to honor coronavirus victims and on Monday to recognize Memorial Day.
And Rob, updating everyone now on a national story. Presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is apologizing tonight for a controversial comment he made on a popular radio show.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Biden was talking with the Breakfast Club's Charlemagne the God this morning. Biden went on to defend his record, but hours later he did issue an apology saying he should not have been so cavalier and that, quote, no one should have to vote for any party based on their race or religion or background. As we head into this holiday weekend, many Americans are planning their first outings after weeks of isolation. President Trump is focused on making sure those who want to can visit their places of worship, declaring those institutions essential. Alice Barr is in Washington with the latest.
President Trump today weighing in on the simmering controversy over churches and other places of worship, demanding they be allowed to reopen like other businesses.
I'm correcting this injustice and calling houses of worship essential. The governors need to do the right thing and allow these very important essential places of faith to open right now for this weekend. If they don't do it, I will override the governors.
With Memorial Day weekend kicking off the start to summer, increasingly restless Americans are already heading to beaches and bars, looking for a break from weeks of isolation.
Yeah, I'm hoping this clears up and everyone's able to enjoy a nice, healthy summer.
But there are clear signs of change. Cleaning crews and monitors at New Jersey beaches urging social distance.
The whole nation is in a conundrum of how free are we going to be and how do we sustain public health.
The former FDA commissioner saying today July and August could be our best chance for a breather.
Because there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, I think, after the summer passes.
Coronavirus cases are expected to rise again in the fall.
It isn't inevitable that we're going to have a massive rebound. What is inevitable is that we will see cases. It's how we deal with it that's going to be the end game.
The president saying whatever happens, he does not intend to shut the country down again. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And as we head into the holiday weekend, let's get our first check on the weather with Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brant Miller. Brant?
Hey, take a look at this. The cloud deck pushed out. The sun is shining. We made it to 71 at O'Hare. Average for the state 72, pretty close to where we should be. Overnight tonight, clouds come back. And here's Stormcast as we look to the day tomorrow. Temperatures will be in the mid 70s. This disturbance to the west will start to pinwheel its way toward Chicago. With that, a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Some of those storms in the late afternoon and evening may potentially be severe. Morning showers, not a big deal, but watch what happens as we get into the afternoon hours. You'll start to see a line of thunderstorms developing. It doesn't look that impressive at first, but get into the late afternoon and it lights up near Chicago. Showers and thunderstorms, and again, the Storm Prediction Center has Chicago in the marginal risk for severe weather. Our storm team will be on guard to keep you safe. More on the weekend forecast coming up.
All right, thanks, Brant. New information tonight about the controversial demolition of a smokestack in Little Village. The implosion at the former Crawford plant last month produced a huge dust cloud that blanketed several blocks. Now, news website Block Club Chicago reports Mayor Lightfoot and her advisors were warned about the possible health risk of the implosion the day before the demolition. That's according to the subject lines of a series of emails included in a spreadsheet obtained through the Freedom of Information Act.
Chicago Public Schools is reportedly looking for new companies to manage its school buildings. The Chicago Sun-Times reports officials are only extending contracts one more year to give themselves time to come up with alternatives. The Sun-Times investigation in 2018 found filthy schools and disgusting conditions, including rodents, that failed surprise inspections.
Still to come, a special declaration for graduates. How a suburban mayor is honoring the class of 2020 with a special cheer tonight. Then.
Yep, it's not the pomp and circumstance of a traditional graduation, but some graduates in Melrose Park get their moment to celebrate. We'll take you there. And
we are celebrating Chicago in a brand new way with a brand new song produced by radio station 95.1 featuring gospel great Darius Brooks, Teresa Griffin, and a host of Chicago artists. I'm Leanne Trotter. Stay tuned. We'll have that story coming up.